We came into this like anti-data hoarding, but now
Hey,
Steve and I are pro data hoarding. Hello and welcome to Outside the Fox, where we explore what's happening online and why it matters. I'm Kim Horcher.
my name's AJ Patel, and today we have a very interesting topic, as always. Kim, could you tell me how many emails you currently have in your inbox?
Thousands, tens of thousands. Next
Really?
question.
What about the number of unread to read?
There's a lot of unread in there.
Really?
Well, if sometimes I'll just get the notification and I'll be like, got it, I know what to do.
And then you just forget about it.
And then I go do what I'm supposed to do and I don't deal with the email.
Do you ever go backwards and, just delete things from maybe like 2018, 2019?
I will if I get a notice that says you're running out of
space.
storage, which happens more than I'd like, really.
So this concept of data hoarding, how many emails are we keeping? How many files? How many photos? That's what we're diving into today. And of course, we have a very special guest. You may have met him.
Oh, really?
The listeners, you may have met him. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Flavin.
I'm back. I told you you'd never seen the last of me. So here I am.
No, we're glad to have you back, and we're going to talk about something that I feel like you and I have touched on before, and it's how we both won't delete our emails, but mainly data hoarding.
So here's the thing. When you hear the word hoarding, I feel like there's a negative connotation to that. My personal philosophy is in the digital space, if it's not taking up any room, why not just keep it? I am nowhere near the capacity of my email inbox in terms of a data cap. I know people and I'm friends with people who are vigilant about like deleting emails once they're done reading them. And that fills me with dread, quite honestly, because what if there's an important thing that you might want to come back to? I do have a lot of thoughts and opinions about data hoarding in general, specifically as it relates to file management and, archiving your photos. And in my case, I'm a filmmaker and I work in video production. I think my backups go back to 2004. So, over 20 years.
Wow.
My personal philosophy with that old archival data is if it's really important, I'll find space for it on my main machine or include it in my regular iCloud backups. But more often than not, the detritus of my college years and old video files from clients that I've had, if they're living on a hard drive somewhere, it's kind of reassuring to know that I might be able to go back and access that. And if I find that it's been corrupted or, maybe the drive doesn't turn on anymore, no harm, no foul. It's, it is not the end of the world.
I know you just mentioned, like, I would like to keep this, but is there something psychological at play where, we don't want to delete old things just in case?
I mean, there is something to be said about being a little bit more thoughtful and, maybe ruthless and like deciding what to invite into your life. And, maybe you just don't need things anymore. I will admit I am notorious about not cleaning up my downloads folder. And I have a lot of like old zip files and like PDFs and things that I don't really need. But at the end of the day, I honestly just don't have time to sort through it. And for me, it's easier. Like the trade-off is like my time or like, just buy another hard drive and just keep everything. And then, if I need something, it's there. I will say that like early on, coming out of college and, video files are huge. And even back in the day when I was shooting like standard definition, it gave me a lot of anxiety at that time because storage was expensive. Right. Debating whether or not I actually needed to keep things.
As you said that, Kim gave a big just sigh. So is there something that you have?
I deleted footage of people who have passed away, and now I feel terrible about it. And it was just like, for what? To save a little more space that I could have afforded? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, we came into this like anti-data hoarding, but now Steve and I are pro data hoarding.
Exactly how Steve mentioned, though. Like you used to be able to keep everything on like a 512, megabyte little SD card. Now, unless you have a gig, 120 gigs, there's these.
No, I need a terabyte.
That's what I'm saying. That's become the minimum now for, all of these pictures. As you said, how large these video files have gotten.
When it comes to digital photos, as long as you have the digital storage space, it doesn't take up a significant physical space in your life. I've gone through like several iterations of this backup system where, these gigantic like desktop drives that you plug in. Now they make these sleek, USB drives that don't require a power adapter, and the storage is, pretty decent. I think the ones that I get now are like 5 terabytes. There was one year recently though where I filled up a whole a hard drive just from 1 year of just making stuff. And I like to leave a little bit of space, like about 25% of the drive I like to leave empty just in case you need to like unzip something or recopy something. It's never good to just fill it all the way up to capacity.
I've definitely filled up the whole drive before, and I may have done it recently on my current computer.
5?
I think it's just because, they're not physically in your space. So that's not an immediate problem of clutter.
Right.
And you figure you can manage it. But there are other reasons to not want to data hoard, and that is privacy and security. I mean, you could be subject to having personal information stolen.
Yeah. So on that question, I'll throw this to you first, is do you prefer to have things on a physical drive like Steve was mentioning, or more of like the cloud structure?
I also work in video,
Right.
so I like those to be on physical. And things like my email or whatever, obviously I'm fine with that being in the cloud.
Yeah. What about yourself, Steve?
Typically, I'm more selective about the things that are on my cloud backups. I have a documents folder, and so a lot of those files tend to be on the smaller side because it's things like spreadsheets and receipts and it's like I have an LLC, so some of my business stuff is there, and that's just nice that I can access it from any device or computer. It's never good to have all of your eggs in one basket, so you never want that cloud backup to be your only backup. Ideally, you should have also a physical backup, ideally in a different location than wherever the cloud servers are located.
Could people take advantage of encryption to help keep that sensitive information safe?
Yeah, I mean, well, theoretically, a lot of the cloud services are encrypted. I will admit I'm not a security expert, so in spite of my enthusiasm about passwords, so that would be a question for somebody who's a little bit more in the weeds than I am.
Even though we're no experts, back in the day, if you get a credit card application in the mail, even still today, you at least give it one rip where it's like, this might have some
I
sensitive.
shred it.
Really?
I do.
Still? You have
I have a shredder.
Wow. Oh, I've just been given it one rip. And it's like, if they put it together,
Nope.
they got me.
Absolutely not.
Is there any way that either of you, I'll start with you, Kim, where it's like anything that you get via email, electronic world, you're getting rid of it in a certain fashion? I don't know what that looks like.
I just delete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you just go to the recently deleted and also delete it from
I
there
dump
too?
them, yeah.
That is an interesting question, which I've never really thought about before. Like, what is the digital version of shredding your data? The industry standard for, security recommendation for deleting data is you have to rewrite the data with ones and zeros multiple times. And so just erasing a hard drive, this is why, when you delete a file, like sometimes you can go back and recover the deleted file because it's
That's
not
true.
actually deleted.
This came up once on that show Silicon Valley, where they had like incriminating information on a hard drive. And then one of the characters was like, oh no, we're going to have to do this and that. And the other guy just pulls out a drill and punches a hole right in the hard drive. And he goes, problem solved.
Is that
One way to do it.
Did they argue that where it's like, no, that didn't work? Or is that
No, it
actually
worked.
the way?
The drive is non-functional.
So if you have anything you need to get rid of, sometimes the old school method works best. Just tear it in half.
Normally we want to keep our hardware.
According to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, a single pass of overwriting data is generally considered sufficient. So you delete the drive once and then you overwrite it once. But NIST recommends up to 35 passes. That's for the most sensitive data.
You can have it at that point.
No, I'm getting the drill.
35. There you go. Yeah, sometimes
I
the
used to
drill.
do that, like back in the day when I sold my laptop. I was like, oh, I want it to be the standard, and then it basically takes all day, unless you're working, for the government or you're a secret agent or something. You probably don't need to erase your hard drive 35 times, but once, it sounds like it's sufficient, like in addition to just deleting it.
I think sometimes we can be surprised by how data hoarding might negatively affect us. Like, a lot of personal information you might not realize is in a photo, and maybe we might not be fully aware of all of our sensitive information.
At the end of the day, what do you really need to keep? There is a certain kind of philosophy, you know, a Zen-like philosophy in, you know, like, do we really need all of this stuff? It applies to the physical as well as data. Kim, you and I were talking before the show about Marie Kondo's Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, which is a fantastic book. I love her philosophy. Basically, in a nutshell, anything that sparks joy is something that you should keep in your life, and anything that doesn't should be jettisoned.
I mean, I feel better when I clear out, you know, stuff that's in my physical space I don't need anymore. So one could reason it's possible that way as well.
Sometimes when I'm on my phone and I keep getting that notification of like, hey,
storage is full.
Your storage is full. Or sometimes you open the camera and it's like storage is full. And it's like, that has become almost my worst fear.
Speaking of data, I'm actually curious, like it's similar to the email question a couple episodes ago. There are certain kinds of people that keep a lot of files on their desktop that it's just like chaos on their desktop. And then there are certain people like myself, I don't have any icons on my desktop. It's like, I just keep it nice and clean. It's just a beautiful image that when I feel like I need a break, I can just hide all of my windows and then I'm back to square one. Curious where each of you fall in that spectrum.
I have 2 monitors. One of them is panoramic.
Okay.
They're full. Of course they're full.
What?
I don't care.
And just like that, you know where everything is.
No, I use my brain to read, and then I go, oh, there's that one I need.
Right. I'm someone that even gets a little bit of anxiety if I have too many tabs open.
Really?
Yeah, but similar to what Steve said is it's my downloads folder. My downloads folder I just kind of neglect, and then next thing you know, it's like, do I need all of this stuff? And is there files that I opened in here and saved off and then just forgot about? And it becomes this loop of like, what, you know, almost like the fear of missing out. What if I need this later? What if I need this later? So I've been trying to get better at that. But as far as my desktop goes, it's pretty clean.
When I was in college, I was an assistant for one of my professors, and she gave me her laptop, and I was organizing some files, and she never forgave me for this. I was like, oh, there's so many like files and folders and everything. And I didn't delete any of them. I just cleaned them up. And she had like a system, like an organic system of like, this cluster of files is this, and this cluster of files. It was like, it's so fascinating, but I felt so bad because she flipped out when she got her laptop, and that was on me because I should have asked. Before you touch somebody's personal device, definitely don't organize it for them.
Well, Steve, thanks again for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you again.
Thanks, guys. See you around.
Later, Steve. And I'm curious to ask the audience, yes, you, what kind of digital clutter do you have? What is your data hoarding of choice? We got videos, we got photos, probably stuff I don't know. Games? Yep. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. You gotta delete them when you're done playing. At least I do. So let us know in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to download Firefox because you know it's the best. We'll see you next time.